share my screen. And I hope it will do it. All right. And I'm going to try to keep my eye on the chat. Crystal's like my eyes and ears. But can everyone see the chart that's on the screen? Okay. All right. So I just did some dummy data, nothing fancy, just the fiscal year for 2018-19 and then fiscal year 19-20. And I compiled this simple chart to visualize the comparisons between the year for each month. Very simple chart you can put together, but I wanted to go over some of the layout of this chart to learn some of the terminology so that when you're adjusting it or formatting it, you'll be familiar with what you're actually working with. So in terminology for charts, this entire table over here is what individuals would call the series data. Okay, it's the table of data that is what's the visualization inside the chart. If you double click on it anywhere inside this chart, you'll notice that it outlines it in certain colors. This is to signify to you what's being shown inside of the chart. And we'll get into that a little bit further, but I wanted you to see that it's kind of showing you, here's where my data set is, and this is what I'm plugging into your chart. In Excel, we're familiar at the top of the ribbon. At the very top, we're familiar with the tabs that are generally available, such as Insert, Home, Page Layout, Formulas, etc. What we're not familiar with is what we call a contextual tab. A contextual tab is the tab that will appear if you're working with an object that you have inserted into a spreadsheet. So if you've inserted a picture or a table or word art or something to that effect, when you click on that object, you'll notice at the very top, two more tabs pop up on my screen. So again, outside of it, I have the regular tabs that I work with on a daily basis. But when I click anywhere inside of that chart, my chart tools contextual tab will pop up to let me have a little bit more leeway in formatting and designing this chart. On the design tab, you have some preset settings just like you do in regular Excel for formatting styles that are already built into Excel. So if I click on this to drop it down, you'll notice that my chart can be changed based on predetermined styles that are already built into Excel. If you're not familiar as much with charts as I am or with someone else that works with them, this is a good way to format your chart quickly to get the kind of the look and feel that you're going for. If not, what I want to teach you today is kind of to format it other than using those styles. You also have a select data button here. And that's really what I want to focus on here because I want to show you how this chart is built. The series, if you'll notice, when I edit this series, you'll notice that my series is from Sheet Tab 1. Okay, so I want to teach you how to read these formulas. So let me go back one more time to show you. So you're going to click inside your chart. You're going to go to the Design tab, and you're going to look at Select Data. And this is going to show you what is in your chart. Okay, so I've got two series running, which is true because I have two bars showing comparisons. And then, of course, for the horizontal axis, it's the months of the year at the bottom. So if I were building this chart from scratch, I would add a series and select this data as I build. If I click on it and hit edit, I'm able to see what is the building factors of my chart. So the series name is equal to sheet 1 B3. So that's here, and I put fiscal year 2018-19. A lot of people would stop and ask me, why did you just not type in fiscal year 2018-19 instead of tagging it to a sale? The reason why is the majority of the time, if you are able to do so, you always want to reference a sale when you're building stuff, because I'm going to go out of it really quickly. So notice that it would have my series label. If I change this, I don't have to go in my chart and update all the series that have that name. It will update automatically because I'm referencing that cell in my formula. So by having this reference here, instead of typing in fiscal year 18-19, referencing that cell allows Excel to update itself automatically when you change that cell to whatever you choose. So always reference a cell if you can. The next portion of this series is what are the values that I'm putting in the series. So first is the name, and then it tells you what you're putting in it. It is referencing B4 through B15. So it's this entire column here from cells 4 to 15. And that is being displayed in the first series of bars that you see in this chart. If I look at the second one, fiscal year 2019-20, same reference, just different column. So the series name is referencing the cell with the fiscal year 1920, which is C3. And then the data or the values in the chart are referencing 4 through 15 in column C. So that's how you would build it. So knowing that, I like to be like a visual learner, so let me show you. On this second sheet, I started out with just the data chart, right? So if I wanted to build from scratch what I just showed you, I would go up to the chart and I would say tab to insert. And then I would click whatever chart that I wanted to build. I'm going to click on the bar chart as normal. All right. And it will automatically insert my data into the chart, right? And now I can format as I need to based on what we just saw from editing that chart series. If something were wrong, I could go into select data and I could update it. So let's say I don't want to include the last quarter of the year because we haven't got there yet, right? So I can edit 2019-20 to only include up to cell 12. So it would reference C4 through C12. And when I hit OK, notice that those bars have now disappeared. So if you're in the month of like September and you haven't got to October, November, and December, you don't have to put them in your chart yet. So again, I just went up to select data. I clicked on the series I wanted to edit, and then I just chose where the values come from. So I can put them right back in by making sure that's referencing 4 through 15, and then I'll hit OK. Now, I'm a person who likes titles in a chart. So I don't usually reference the labels or the legend at the bottom. This is my data person coming through. I will get rid of the series. So for instance, I'll go up to the chart elements. Now I'm working with 2016. So if you have 10 or below, it looks a little different. If you have 13 or above, it looks about the same. I'll go to my chart elements and I will remove my legend. Okay, so that's gone. And then I have to have a way for individuals to realize what year they're looking at, right? So I will change my chart title. This is, again, just my preference. I will say fiscal year 2018. Well, I can't type because y'all are making me nervous. Compared to fiscal year 2019-20. Okay. So now I've, can format it just like you can text. And I like to take the verbiage and change these references to the colors of the bar. So if the color of the bar for 18-19 is that blue, I will format my text to be about the color of that blue. And then I'll format the 2019-20 to be the color of the orange. So anyone looking at this chart would see that fiscal year 18 is the blue bars and it's compared to 2019-20. All right, I think I have a chat that popped through. Oh, brilliant idea. Trust me, I learned from great people before me. I won't take all the credit. So again, you format in Excel, Microsoft Word. I'm pretty sure you guys are professionals, so you've used a Word document or an Excel. Inside of a chart, you can format just like you can anything in every other Microsoft software. So I'll switch back to my original chart. The white area, the big white area around the chart is known as the chart area. Okay, that's the terminology used. So when someone says format the chart area, they're actually talking about the entire area of the chart. when you're right clicking to get a menu, so you guys know the shortcut menu, you right click to do something, right? If you right click in the chart area, your formatting option will be chart area. So it'll say format the chart area. If I happen to be clicking on a bar and want to do that, it's not going to say chart area anymore. It's going to say something else. So it's it's good that you know the different portions of a chart, because where you click is very vital in formatting charts. So the humongous white area behind this chart is known as the chart area. The left numbers over here, the vertical axis, all right, that's known as an axis, and so is the bottom. So the up and down is vertical, the left and right is horizontal. So you have your vertical axis and your horizontal axis. If you right click on those, your formatting options will say format axis. If you click anywhere in this gray line area, so this, I call it plots. If you click anywhere in that chart area, that charting spectrum here, it's going to say format the plot area, right? And I can't get it to do it. Format the plot area. So the huge part of it's known as the chart area. The graphic portion of it is known as the plot area. If I click on one of the bars,
it's not witchcraft.
I think is somebody asking a question? Okay, sorry. So if I click on one of the bars, right, you'll notice that all of the blue bars now have these 4 dots surrounding them. Okay, what you click one time and you've actually selected the entire first series. If all of the bars in that series are labeled with these 4 dots, you're formatting that entire series. If I click again on just one of the bars, all of the bars disappear except the one that I clicked on. Now it has the 4 dots. Now I'm working with a data point. Okay, so all of the bars are known as the data series. One of the bars is known as a data point. Okay, why is that vital? It's because I can change the look and feel of the entire series. So let me give you an example. If I click on the blue bars and I right click, my formatting option says format data series. I'm going to move this over to the middle of the screen so you guys can see it. So now I have my formatting option that would pop over on my right hand side, and I'm formatting the entire series that is the blue series, right? So I can fill it a different color. I can make it a solid fill, and then I can change it to maybe a dark blue. And then I can adjust the widths and the compound types, etc. And then I'll close it. So now my borders are blue. Let me go back and format my color. I did the border instead of the fill, I'm sorry. So solid fill, let's make it dark blue. And you'll notice, if I do it right, that now my bars are dark blue. So I have formatted the entire series. Well, what if I wanted to call out one of those bars and say, December is my highest value that year, right? So I would click on the bars one time to select them all, and then click on December's bar to make sure that I'm working with just that point. I would right click and format my data point, and then I'll change that color to, let's say, red to point it out. So now that one specific bar is red. So that's the difference between working with a data series versus a data point. You're working with one bar or one line or one piece of the pie graph versus the entire series, the entire bars, the entire column, the entire line, etc. Are there any questions on what the plot area, the chart area, the data series, and the data points are? I love Julie's face. Julie's like, nope. All right, I'm just checking the chat just to make sure. Okay, perfect. So the axis can be adjusted just like the formatting of any other thing. So you can go up here and adjust the type of font that you want. You can change the color of your font or the background of your font. You can make the font red and underline. I mean, you can do anything you want to, just like you can with anything in Word and Excel. And I'm only going over this really quickly, so as we build in just a few minutes, you'll be familiar with what I'm saying. The title of your chart is adjusted as you see fit. One thing I do want to point out is in 2013 through 19, which is what's out now, the right-hand side of your charting portion is some elements that you can click on quickly. And you can just click that green plus sign and remove things and add things as you see fit. So you can take your axes away. You can add it back. You can take your axis titles away and add them back. You can remove the chart title, or you can place it on a different above the chart or centered, whatever you choose to. Data labels, I only say use data labels if you have only maybe 3 to 4 bars or columns or a pie chart, because as you can see on my screen, if I put data labels up here, it gets really, really convoluted and you can't read the graph anymore. You also can put a data table at the bottom. This is kind of a cool feature on charts where you can remove these axes and just do a column chart at the bottom, and it looks like a table, and they can refer to what the bars mean instead of actually having a graph. Totally up to your perspective. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. Error bars are a statistical mathematical formula that gives the error of margin of error inside of a table of graphs. So if you're working with some statistical things or data analysis, you could use error bars. Your grid lines are those gray plot area lines that you see that show kind of the levels of the bars. Some people decide to get rid of those. That's a personal preference. And you also have the ability to get rid of your legend, as I did earlier, and use that title as your legend. And you also can move it to different portions of the chart, the top, the bottom, the left, or the right. The last thing is kind of a trend analysis function. It gives you a trend line on what your forecast trend would be on a graph of information that you're creating. So I did a trend line on, let's say, 2019-20. It would show me that it is in fact looking at the data points and showing me that it is a positive trend moving upward, and it's not giving a negative impact on financials of the company. So that's a quick way to show kind of that deviation. So you're going more of making money versus losing money, or serving more people versus not serving more people. I know I got a chat. Let me look at that. I love the trend line. Oh, hey, Tara, nice to see you. Okay, so that's the basic functions and terminologies of a chart. Again, the chart formatting tools will appear at the top, and charts can be formatted just as they can with anything else in Excel and PowerPoint and Microsoft Word. One other thing I want to point out before we start using that spreadsheet to build something is you can move a chart to a whole different sheet in your workbook. I preferably like them on the same sheet as my chart of data. Some people do not. They like to print them out and give them in presentations, etc. So if you choose to make that happen, when you click on your chart, you can go to the design tab that pops up, and you can move the chart. You'll click the move chart, and it'll ask you, do you want it to be in a new sheet or an object in the sheet that you're in? And if I click new sheet, I can name the sheet that I want it to be. So I can say forecast, and then hit OK, and it will actually move it into a forecast sheet and then make it an entire graph sheet tab for yourself. Again, preference for you, if that's what you would like to do for your presentations. Are there any questions? Oh, and if you want to move it back, you have the ability to do that too. And it'll put it right back in. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and open. Yes, it is. Let's go ahead and open your practice sheet that I gave you, and we're going to open the stacked bar chart. Not the stacked, I'm sorry, overlapping bar chart sheet tab that I gave you. So what I'd like to do is create a graph it's a very simple one. It's stacking two bars on top of each other and making it look kind of visually presentable. Again, this is fake Goodwill data. I just created some fake data just for us to use. You'll see that your table is located in section or I'm sorry, data section A3 through C7. So we will actually be working with that as our data points. And I'm going to build this from scratch to show you every step of the way on how to make a really good bar graph look presentable in a presentation, right? So I want to do a comparison between the actual for budgeted quarter months, so January, February, March, and April. And then I want to compare that to the budgeted, so what I actually spent compared to budget. So what I'm going to do is highlight the data in my cell. So I'm going to go A3 all the way to C7. And then I'm going to go to my insert tab at the very top. And I happen to like a cluster graph, which is the very first one. But I'm going to do a bar graph. So the columns go up and down, bars go left and right. So I'm actually going to choose the clustered bar graph, which is in the third section of my software and the very first one. And I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys. So as we do this, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so all I did was just highlight my data, go up to insert and choose which bar chart that I wanted to insert. Next, what I want to do is, again, because it's a personal preference of mine, I'm just going to delete the legend. There's two ways to do that. I can go to my chart elements on the right, like I showed you, the green plus sign, and I can just uncheck the legend portion, or I can click on my legend and just hit the delete key on my keyboard. Either way that you prefer working. So you can delete it using the chart elements or just click it and delete it with the delete key on your keyboard. So I deleted the legend of my graph. All right. So now I want to change the fonts of my vertical and horizontal axes, right? So I want them to look a little bit different. I want to use Arial font. I'm just going to pick one. You can choose whatever you want to. So what I'm going to do is right click on the vertical axis, which is this left side. And I'm going to do format axis. And I can do it this way, however you choose. You can do the fill here, etc. Or the quicker way is just to go up here at the top and change to Arial. Let's just do Arial black. All right, and then I'll do the same thing to the horizontal axis. I'll just click on it, go up here and change it to Arial black. Right, so I'm just formatting like I would anything else. Any questions so far? All right, now what I want to do is make the bars. So I'm going to do it for Goodwill, right? I'm going to make Goodwill's colors. So I'm going to do it like us. So I'm going to use the light blue and the dark blue for our Goodwill colors for these bars. So I want to make the budget bar one color, and then I want to make the actual bar another color. So actual spending will be a lighter color. The budget spending will be the darker color. So how do I know which one's which? We can use the technique we used a little bit earlier by clicking on the chart and the bar. You can see that the red bar is budget and the blue bar is actual. So again, by clicking on the bars, it highlights my table and shows me that the red is budget. And when I click on the blue, it moves to actual. So if I want to make the actual bars lighter and the budget bars darker, now I know which one's which. So I'm going to make the actual, I'm going to right click on the series, okay, format data series. And I'll pop this out so you guys can see it because I know my screen's small. So when I get my format data series navigation pane, I'm going to click on the paint can. That's the fill bucket. And I'm going to go to the fill option and I'm going to change it to a solid fill color. And then it asks me what you want the color to be and what you want the transparency to be. Okay, so I'm just going to say this in case you don't. Transparency is just how clear you want it to be, right? 0 transparency means it's a solid bar. 100 transparency means it's completely clear. So the color, if I click on that paint bucket, I have the option to select predetermined Microsoft colors. Or I also can go down here and select more colors. And then my dialog box appears that allows me to select custom colors that may be associated with your logo, right? So I can go to custom, and I don't even know if I can remember my Goodwill color. That's funny. Let's do it this way. I remember and then I don't remember, y'all. That's hilarious. All right, so now I can get my color. Perfect. All right, so my light blue, I'm going to move this. My light blue, I'm going to change to 2, 117, 181. All right, so I changed my actual color to the lighter blue, okay? And I'm going to do my red. So I'm going to click on my red one time to highlight the entire series. I can right click again to format data series. And then I'll choose the paint can, solid fill. And then I'll change this one to the darker blue color. And so now I have my Goodwill colors on the bars. So my actual budget is the lighter color and my budgeted is the darker color. Okay, everybody see how I did that much? All right, perfect. So now what needs to happen is I need the bars to lay on top of one another. All right. How do we do that? We format the chart. So I want my actual bar, so my lighter bar, to go on top of my budget bar, right? I want it to lay on top of it. So how do I do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the bar and I'm going to go up to my design. Okay, so again, outside your chart, click on the bar that you want to work with. So I'm working my lighter bar series. I click one time to make sure that it selects all of those lighter bars. I'm going to go up to my design contextual tab that pops up, and I'm going to do change chart type. All right, now when I change my chart type, what I want you to look at is this section that appears right here. So it gives me a preview of what my chart looks like, and then it shows me the series names that I'm working with, actual and budgeted. I want to put my actual chart on a secondary axis. All right, so this option over here. So think about it as a comforter on a bed. Your primary axis is your sheets, and then you can lay your comforter right on top of your sheets on a whole nother plane, right? They're on top of each other. That's your secondary axis. So you have your primary axis and then your secondary axis. So if I click that button, notice how it overlays these bars on my chart. So when I hit OK, so I'm again, select the option of secondary axis on actual, and then I'm going to hit OK, and it plops them on top of each other. And we're gonna fix these two charts that kind of popped up. So you got two axes now, but we're gonna work on that. Just don't panic yet. So we've got one laid on top of the other. And now I want the gap width. So I want the bottom bar to be wider so that we don't get this what we've got in January. You can't even see the bottom budget bar, right? Because it overlaps the other one. We need to make that bottom bar wider. So how do we do that? We do what's called the gap width, okay? And we do that by formatting our data series. So again, I'm going to right click on one of those dark blue bars and format my data series. And you'll notice in series options, when it pops up, you have what's called a gap width, okay? Watch my gap width when I make it bigger. Okay, so the larger, it shrinks it smaller, and then the lower, it makes it wider. See what it did? So I want that bar to be a little bit wider. So let's do about 65. It looks about right, about 65. So now you can see my bottom bar underneath the top bar without having, visualization problems, right? So I just lowered the gap width by formatting that data series and just lowered it to about 65%. right? Did everybody see how I did that? Anybody need me to repeat it? Okay, all right. So now that I've got it kind of looking good, I really don't like this 80,000.
Richard,
Yes.
could you please repeat that? Because when I'm doing it on mine,
Okay.
it's doing it for both bars and not just one or the other.
Okay, so make sure that you're not formatting a plot area or anything like that. Make sure you have one data series selected. So I'm going to go and select, right click on one of those blue bars so it shows that all 4 of those bars have dots around them. And then I'll click Format Data Series. So I'm working with just that dark blue series. And then I'll make the gap width, you know, what I choose at that point. So let's go back to 65. And then I'll close it. So I can't see your screen, but I think it's just that you probably clicked a little bit on the wrong thing, and it happens because charts are so small. So now I don't like that 80,000 at the top and 70,000 at the bottom, right? So I'm going to delete, all I have to do is delete that top one. So I'm going to click on that top axis and hit the delete key on my keyboard. So we've done away with that one. Now, it realigned my bottom horizontal axis to 80,000. Now, as a data person and a visualization person, this drives me insane because there's such a gap width from the end of your chart to the very last, the highest point in your chart, right? So our highest data point is 70,000. So at most, our last data point on that horizontal should be no more than like 72,000. Right? So I'm going to format this series. Okay, so I'm going to click on the bottom horizontal axis and notice now I have the option of format axis. All right, so on the axis, you have several things that you can format. What I want to focus on is what's called a bound. So a boundary is what it entails to, right? So the bounds are right here. It says minimum bound and a maximum bound. And right now my maximum bound is 80,000. So what I want to do is change that maximum bound to about 71,000, because again, that won't hit my highest point. And then I will close it. And now you'll see that there's not much of a gap anymore, right? It shrunk my gap. But notice that it gave me a negative 9,000. So I'm just going to format again and realign that to 0. Again, Excel's trying to intelligent sense, you know, kind of things what you're doing. So then I'm going to change it back to 0 and we're good. Now we're at 0 to 70,000. We're good. The gap is not there anymore. We're perfect. The last thing that we want to do on this one that we want to build is, again, my chart title, right? My chart title, I want to be similar to what's on there because I don't want it to have the legend that we took off earlier. So I'm going to format my chart title to basically say what I need it to say and be a legend. So I'm going to click on chart title and I'm going to write January's actual budget or actual spending. Don't want to use the same title. Was 20,000 greater than budgeted spending. All right. Now we can, again, format this. I actually like the font Future. I can't remember what it is. Future Pro, I think. Yep, that's it. So I made it Futura LT Pro. I'm going to align it to the left. And now all I'm going to do is change my actual spending words to the color of the lighter bar. And I'm going to change my budgeted spending to the darker color of the bar. So now if I put that bar or that chart in a separate sheet, all right, budget comparison, on its own, you wouldn't need a legend, right? you would be able to say actual spending is the lighter bar and budgeted spending is the darker bar. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. All right. The last thing that I want to do for you guys, again, I could go on for like hours with you. It's so much fun. The next thing I want to do is to do a target line on a chart. Because again, we want a simple bar chart, but we want it to be able to show that targets have been met, etc. So what I've done is create some fake placement data, like, you know, people that have gotten jobs for employment. And for every one of these Goodwills, their target was 60 people, right? So I want to create a graph that shows the target is 60 and where they're at in reference to that target. So what I'm going to do is highlight cells A4 through A9. All right. Now, because the data that I want is the names. So I want the series at the bottom to show the names, and then I just want the targets and the kind of the quarter goals, right? If you've worked in Excel before, if you want to highlight adjacent cells that are next to each other, you just simply click and drag. But what if the cells are not next to each other? What do? You highlight the first set of cells that you want, and then you hold your control key down on your keyboard, and then you highlight your next set of cells, right? So I'm going to actually highlight N4 through O9. Okay, so now I've highlighted what kind of my table is, my makeshift table for the data in my chart. Okay, so again, if they're not adjacent, you highlight your first range and you hold your control key down, and then you highlight your second range. Now I'm going to insert the chart. So I want to insert a column chart. So I'm going to go to insert, and then I'll just do a regular column chart, right? And then I'll make this bigger at the bottom for you guys. All right, now I'm not going to do much fanciness here. I just want to be able to show you how to adjust these bars, right? So what I'm going to do is highlight or select the data series that is the first one, which is my data series is the Q1. So that's the numbers that are actually what they've achieved as of Q1. So I'm going to select my data series, and I'm going to format it to be my darker Goodwill color. So again, the paint can, solid fill, darker colors already selected. So now that will carry over to my chart bars, right? I want to make them a little bit wider. So I'm going to format the data series again, and I'm going to shrink the gap width a little bit. Now it's formatting both of them because they're not on two axes right now. They're on the same axis. So I'm going to make the bars a little bit wider, and I'm going to close it. All right. So now we can see it a little bit more. All right. And then I want to insert the data labels that I was talking about earlier, right? So I can go up to my chart elements here. All right. And select data labels. And of course, they pop out on the right-hand side. I'll show you how to get rid of the red ones in a second. So I'm just going to make sure they're on the outside end. And when you select one of those data labels, it's like you're working with all of them, right? So if I click one, notice all of the blue data labels are highlighted. So I'm just going to format them like text. I'm going to go to the Home tab and make them bold and increase the font size until I'm happy. Maybe too big. So maybe like 24. And then make them the color of the bar. Right? So now those data labels are there. Right? So now I'm going to take my 60, which is my target. So all of these other bars that are here is actually the target number that you're trying to reach, right? So I'm going to take that target number, and I'm going to do what I did earlier and lay it on top of the other one. But I'm going to make it a line graph this time, right? So I want to change it to a line graph to be a little bit different than what was before, right? So I'm going to right click on the placement bars. All right. I'm going to make sure that they're selected, and I'm going to change series chart type to a line. Okay. And I'm going to hit OK. Oh, it did it wrong. Sorry. I did them all. I did them all. All right. Stay with me. Be nice. Be nice. I think it's not going to let me do it, y'all. It's being mean to me. Of course, it would get stumped when I'm teaching y'all, right? All right, let's do it this way. Let's stupefy it. So let's go ahead and put it on a secondary axis and then change it here. Haha. Now I stupefied it. All right, so I'm going to change it to the secondary axis. So lay it on top of the other one. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change the chart type here. So it'll be nice to me. And when I hit OK, notice now that there's a target line for your actuals, right? And I can format that line just like I can a bar. I can right click on it and format the data series. All right. And I can take that 60 off, this 60 off. Oh, I don't want to do two of them. I want to click it again, that one. So I'm removing all of the little data points on it. And I'm going to fix that one to be, let's make it red, bold, and make it bigger. So we know that the target line is 60. All right. And I'll make that line a dark red. All right. And then I can delete the legend and the axis because I have the data points on there. I'll make this bolder and bigger so you can see the locations of the good wheels. And of course, you can name it whatever you want. You know, placement, target comparison. Say benchmark comparison. All right, and then I'm just gonna make that bigger. About right there, and bold, and whatever else we want to do with it. So that's a quick way of putting a kind of a line. So again, think of it, the last thing I'll say to you is just think of your cluster charts with 2 bars or 3 bars as separate graphs if you need to. So one series can be your data, the other series can be your target, and you can put that target on another type of graph to make it look like it's overlaying the other one and kind of give you more of that visualization to it. All right, I think somebody popped one up. I think Latoya, yes, I think Crystal's going to send that recording out. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing to kind of give you a little bit of time to ask me questions or any comments, concerns. I also, I think we got, yeah, we're doing good. We got about 10 minutes. So if you don't have any comments or questions about the training, like want to go over something, I'd really like to hear what you would like to see in the future for some other trainings if you have that in your head.
I have to admit, you lost me on the target line.
Okay.
Because there are subtle differences between what your screen shows and what mine does because I'm on a Mac.
Okay. Yes, it is different. It is different.
Yeah, so I'm a little lost, but that's okay. I'll go back and look at the recording and slow it down.
So, Marie, I think I'll get your email if you registered. What I can do is the other instructors is really good with Mac. So what we might be able to do is kind of put together like an instruction packet for Mac and maybe send it to you. And maybe that'll help you differentiate between the two, and it'll give you a little bit more Mac focus than it would be Windows.
Sure.
Okay.
But this is great.
Sure.
I'm picking up all kinds of tiny little subtleties that I had no idea. I'm so Excel stupid. This is fabulous. Thank you.
She said I'm Excel stupid. Please, Crystal,
Sure.
please tell me we've stopped recording. She said she's Excel stupid. Yes.
We also need the Mac version, please.
We also say that one more time. I'm sorry.
the Mac version